This is definitely going in the review.
They should have had this in Trail Force. Hey,
That's gonna
park
go
at the bottom of the road.
That's why I'm making this video. It's going in the review. Yeah. If you're shuttling Strawberry Ridge, do not drive up the access road that Trail Forks shows as joining with the trailhead. Park at the bottom of the access road. As a matter of fact, if you run out of space here at the bottom of the access road, just park down at the intersection of Forest Service Roads 25 and 26. It's completely downhill from the end of the trail to that intersection. Do not fill up this turnout. Also, this is not a beginner trail. It's blue, but I recommend this for advanced riders. Okay, now that we've got the logistics out of the way, Strawberry Ridge is either a shuttle ride with about 1,200 feet of climbing, or it's a loop with 6,000 feet of climbing. Your choice. If you do choose the shuttle, you get 4,000 feet of descent in return for your 1,200 feet of climbing and a 45-minute shuttle transfer. Make sure you have a navigator in the car with you who has Trail Forks up on their phone so you don't miss the turns as you navigate up the 25 road to the 25-26 until you get here, the Strawberry Mountain trailhead. You are unlikely to find solitude on this trail. Strawberry Mountain has been discovered. Voiceover Trail Reviews found it. It's no longer a secret. Sorry guys. Let's get right to it. The first quarter mile of this trail is a hike-a-bike up some fairly steep switchbacks. One of the coolest things about this trail though is that there are jaw-dropping views from the very beginning. This one starts off as a showstopper, so there's a consolation prize for having to push your bike through all this dust, and that's views that are second to none, the best in the Gifford Pinchot. After the switchbacks, the majority of this ride is actually quite pedalable. It almost feels like a cross-country ride up here on the ridge. This is by no means a shuttle bomb. There are about 1,200 or so feet of climbing before you really start descending on this ride, and you're going to feel all 1,200 of those feet. From the trailhead back to the shuttle point, this trail takes about an hour to ride. Plan accordingly. You're probably going to be able to get 2 shuttle runs if you start at 10:30 in the morning. There are some downhill sections along the ridgeline. It is a ridgeline after all. That's kind of how these rides tend to work. You know, it meanders up and down. They're like little teasers to get you all jazzed up, which you're going to need because a good share of this transfer is going to be spent pedaling along bench cut like this on exposed ridgeline. Most of the ridgeline is exposed because this is part of the farthest extent of a blast zone from the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. They did salvage logging up here after the eruption, but they didn't replant, so the forest is naturally regenerating. That means you get to see some pretty awesome views as you make your approach. Like I mentioned before, there is a fair amount of pushing your bike, but it's worth it, even if you do have to push your bike over pumice that has the consistency of Cocoa Puffs. Thank you, David Stiles, for the Cocoa Puffs analogy. Seriously, though, the views from this ridge are some of the best available in the Gifford Pinchot, and certainly some of the best views you can get of the Dark Divide. This is a rewarding place to ride your bike, and if you've already ridden Ape Canyon, Plains of Abraham, Goat Mountain, Helens Lake, and the Tootle Trail, it really rounds out the tour of the Mount St. Helens blast zone. Of course, the day we rode this, we were really glad to get 2 runs in, because on the first lap, we were waiting for the clouds to burn off, and a good share of the ride actually looked like this. You can take your summer weather back, San Francisco. We don't want your marine layer up here. Of course, the goodness continues even well into the trees, and the quickly evaporating cloud layer really did make for some dramatic visual moments. And that's one of the things that really distinguished this trail, is the visual drama combined with what you are about to get out of the ride. Parts of the climb may not be the most fun thing you've ever done, but it's all going to be worth it. Remember, 4,000 feet. When you get here, you're going to think the downhill is beginning, but this is actually just the last teaser descent. It is pretty nice, but it's not the main attraction. When you get here, this is the main attraction. Here is what you came for. Now, the trail tread here is something that I think is kind of unique to the Pacific Northwest, because you need the combination of volcanism, wet winters, and coniferous forests to create this magic. The tread is made of a combination of pumice and loam that I like to call ploam. Ploam is quite possibly one of the best trail surfaces there is if it's allowed to set up right. It's kind of the perfect combination of crackly, sticky, and loose. The first thing that really struck me about this descent is how pristine this tread really is for the most part. Anywhere there aren't steep switchbacks or tight turns, the tread is just perfectly packed ploam. It's as close to ideal as you can get for a bench trail. That is not to say that the tread doesn't get spicy in places. In fact, it gets very spicy. Wherever the trail gets steeper than a certain grade, the tread breaks loose and exposes the pumice layer underneath, and then you find yourself skidding if you don't keep your machine under control. This is very narrow bench, but even in early September when we hadn't gotten rain for weeks, the tread was holding up exceptionally well under the trees in here. One of the defining features of this trail is that it's the perfect grade. We've all ridden brake burners before, and while the objective elevation numbers suggest this should be a brake burner, it somehow strangely isn't. I wasn't wearing out my index fingers on this descent like I expected. Even sitting here at home, I'm having trouble finding the right words to describe this descent. I don't know how to put words to this. I'm having trouble here. It's like stuff and hardpack meat. But how do I describe this? Oh, the forest is amazing. The trail is plume. This is plume for sure. It's kind of between plume and sloam. Yep. Now we're kind of into Doug firs, silvers, hemlock cones everywhere. A little more than halfway down, you're going to encounter a quick little jaunt uphill. Consider this a place to gather yourself, as the trail only gets steeper and spicier down here on the second half of the descent. Now, as we sat around the outdoor picnic tables at the drive-in burger place in Morton after this ride, we got into a discussion about this trail. And we decided in that discussion that this trail is, in fact, canonical. In this case, the reason why is a bit more complex than normal. In the literary canon, an author or piece of literature is canonized if they are considered to have a certain aesthetic value or cultural value that is considered authoritative. However, unlike the biblical canon, there is no set criteria for what makes a work aesthetically important and authoritative. Robert Pirsig, the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, put a finer point on it when he posited that there are no discernible criteria behind what makes anything a thing of distinction or quality. Because quality is an experience you must perceive first before you try to describe the thing that has it. The way he explained it is that there is an arc in the universe that bends toward quality. You know it when you see it or experience it. We could get a team of 100 scientists and theorists together and analyze every square inch of this trail, making note of the soil types, the grades, the width of the tread down to minutiae. But in the end, all we would know is the structures that made this a quality trail. An authoritative aesthetic experience, both unique and worthy of aspiring to. But we wouldn't be able to generalize it to other experiences, to other trails. We can only attempt to emulate what worked. This trail is canonical because it is an authoritative example of a quality bench trail descent. It's one of those rare circumstances in which everything just came together perfectly to create a transcendent experience. It's like the Princess Bride of trails. I really could spend hours going over every turn, every break in the trees, each technical feature and view. I propose that every trail can be analyzed just like a piece of literature, right down to the cultural context in which it was created and in which it currently exists. But I already went over this in detail in my quasi-review rant about Whistler. It can be criticized, it can be emulated. The meanings inherent in its structure can be argued over. The canon isn't a hierarchy, it's simply a list of important examples, of which this trail is one. When something is canon, you see aspects of it in every other member of its classification. It becomes one standard by which many other examples are judged. So why all this deep dive analysis over a dirt path through the woods? Because this experience was really so transcendent, so uniquely unique, that I really am struggling to adequately describe what I just experienced. This trail was described to us by someone else as a 1%er, meaning it is in the top 1% of trails in the world. We also talked about that at the drive-in, and we agree. But the reasons are difficult to describe. It took us some time just thinking about this trail to process the experience. Just like a great work of art, a great piece of literature, or a piece of historical architecture, it needs to be picked apart in smaller pieces, analyzed one aspect at a time. And I can't do that in a YouTube video. It needs to be experienced and then discussed to be understood. So ride this with your friends and discuss. The trail bottoms out here at the top of the access road I told you not to drive up, and now you see why. Because this is where you would have had to park. The road descends about 1,000 feet here. Man, it would be nice to continue this trail down to the road. Anyway, it's going to take you 5 minutes to descend this road, by the way. And on this descent of the road, you're going to get a good, close, and intimate look at precisely why you should not drive your car up this. Any high-clearance Subaru RAV4 or pickup truck could make it up this road, but why subject yourself to that with a rack full of bikes? Just shred it on the way down. Also, don't forget that it is completely downhill from here to the 25 road. Do not fill up this turnout. Park down at the 25 road if it is full. This trail really, it really did leave me at a loss for words, which is why I'm talking about it so much. Usually words don't fail me, even when everyone else would like them to. But I haven't been able to adequately process this experience and put it completely into words. You need to ride this trail. That's my main takeaway. You just need to ride this trail. It's important. Put this on your bucket list. This one is definitely going to be a yearly ride for me. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of you, my viewers and subscribers, and especially my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support what I do, navigate to patreon.com/voiceovertrails. And if you decide to support me at the Hero Dirt level, you too can have your name mentioned at the end of these videos, just like Heather Van Valkenburg, Todd McCarthy, Ty Morgan Marbett, and Jason Moore. Now, before the weather changes, get out there and go ride your bike.